So for today's presentation, we kind of want to talk about why are we here. And we want to talk a little bit about the actual Native Education Forum, kind of what it is and kind of how all this came about and kind of why we're driven to do so. For today's presentation, I do have a special guest also, Rachel Ensing. And I know y'all heard my introductions probably 2 or 3 times already. I'll do a quick one by myself and I'll also let her introduce herself. So for me, again, I'm Justin Richardson. I'm one of the assistant directors of undergraduate admissions at NC State. I work a lot as far as event programming. So stuff such as Native Education Forum and our summer camp programs. I work very closely with that. I also do events around kind of North Carolina titled Pack Preview, Rev Up, anything is around there to really introduce college to different kind of students and kind of show them a process to help them navigate through the college process. I'm from Hollister, North Carolina. I'm from the Haliwasaponi tribe. Roughly speaking, I'm working in admissions for about 4 years now. I'm also a graduate of NC State. I graduated from NC State in 2015 with my degree in communications with a media concentration.
All right. And hello, everyone. As Justin said, I am Rachel Ensing. I'm currently the Director of Recruitment and Admissions at the Brand Center, which is at Virginia Commonwealth University. So I'm currently in Richmond, Virginia, which is actually where my extended family is, even though I grew up in Pembroke, North Carolina. And so I'm also a member of the Haliwasaponi tribe, and I really began my admissions career at NC State, where I worked very heavily in Native recruitment and was lucky to have the opportunity to be able to start Native Education Forum while I was there. Only left NC State because I felt like I had to practice what I was preaching of going to get higher education. And you know, my career is really in college access, and I went to go get my master's degree in higher education with a focus in enrollment so that I could continue to create this good work. And I'm so happy to see that, you know, the Native Education Forum is still continuing, and even happier that Justin has asked me to be involved in the past couple of years, and especially this year. It's never gonna not have a really big place in my heart. So I'm excited that y'all are all here, virtual or not. We know this is a weird time, but regardless, it's still exciting to be able to bring y'all together and to be able to talk about some of the things that Native Education Forum can bring, and I'm excited to get into it.
And so from one of the emails you saw, I sent out kind of telling about this presentation. Really one real cool thing as far as having Rachel here is, even though I'm like the program coordinator of NEF now, Rachel's actually the person who kind of started NEF here at NC State, which she's going to talk about a little bit in the presentation. So she's kind of the founder and kind of driven this whole drive behind the whole thing we're trying to do now. Even back then, I was just a student mentor. So it kind of happened with me being a mentor to kind of passing the torch on to this process. So kind of an exciting thing for both of us. To start today's presentation, we actually want to ask you all a question to get kind of your thoughts and opinions on some things. And the question is, what are some things you're nervous about as far as applying to college and even going to college? I'm going to open up a poll. So if you look at Zoom and go to the top, either left or bottom left, you'll see a poll in progress, and you'll see some different options that a lot of students have indicated they may be nervous about when it comes to applying to college or going to college or anything around there. So can you take a few minutes within the poll? You can go ahead and submit your responses, click as many as possible. We can see when everyone has voted, so take your time with that. Also, Rachel, someone else from Richmond is in this call.
I saw that, yeah.
You have someone else from the Richmond area on the call, which is awesome. Oh, I just saw your smiley face. Makes sense. Cool. So we got just 3 more people waiting to vote. So once that's all good, we'll be good to go.
Awesome.
And Rachel, you can see the poll
Yep,
also.
yep, right? I can see it, yeah.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm. I don't think they can see it yet, right?
No, they can't see it.
Okay.
All right, so everyone has voted. Seems like so far from our results, it's actually a lot of the same response.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing thing.
Yeah. Do you want to share out in the poll and share it?
Yeah. So we can go ahead and end it and share results. Mm-hmm. So you can kind of see now in the share results, it actually was a close battle for quite a few of them. One of the key ones was paying for college, which I can tell you in about 3 more weeks, we will do a big session as far as paying for college. We have someone from Financial Aid and Scholarships come in and talk. But I do want to say at this point in time, does anyone actually want to kind of unmute themselves and actually talk about one of the selections they chose and kind of anything they may help talk about a little bit more, so why they may be nervous about it or anything around there. If you like to do so, if you press the raise hand feature, they'll help me out a whole lot. We can call on you and we'll actually turn the floor over to you just for you to talk and share your opinions about anything.
And you're also welcome, depending on if you maybe don't want to say something, if you have just one person voting on them, right? So other people are also feeling kind of the same things, right? And, we're hoping to kind of dig into that both through this week, but also through this presentation today to kind of talk a little bit more about, what those fears are, how we can get over the nervousness, and really how we can equip y'all. And that's really what this week and this series, as I understand it, is really all about.
Mm-hmm. And one of the key things to remember is a lot of times, no matter what you're feeling or nervous about, maybe like a little bit like knowing about the unknown, just remember you're not alone with it. Almost someone in some shape or form can relate to you. I love telling everyone when I do my normal like admissions talks is a lot of times in applications, you're sharing your story. So you tell them about your story and your journey to college. And even though everyone has their own similarities, you also have your own unique story also. So your journey may be a little bit different, everyone, but remember, you're not alone with the process. And people can relate to you in some shape or form overall. But thank you for doing the poll and kind of sharing your thoughts, opinions about it. Just toward the little end of the presentation. Also, we're gonna have times for you to kind of share any thoughts or opinions. And also let us know a little bit more about who you are. So as far as Native people in general going to college, it is kind of an unknown thing sometimes, or things where sometimes you may not have the right answers to or know how to really explain it. And it can adjust a little bit and kind of shows why we're here for this purpose. So in general, as far as when Native students go to college, some things we notice is one, a lot of students are first generation college students. So that means your family, your mom and dad maybe didn't go to college or didn't graduate from college. So the process for you is a little bit unknown. You're not too for sure about the process, how it looks, or kind of normal terminology and just through it. And it's something for me personally, I had no idea about. So I was a first generation college student. So when I came to my senior year applying to colleges, I was like, what is this? Like, what is FAFSA? What is all this stuff to go through? And for me personally, my big help for that was my high school counselor. He actually walked me through the full process, showed me different things. He's actually the person who pushed me to apply to NC State. It's a school that I thought I couldn't get into. It was way a school out of my league. He was telling me more like, actually, no, I think you'll be good fit for the program. And I think you really should apply for it. I think you have a good chance of getting accepted. I think you'll be a good fit there. So there's one big kind of obstacle that students may have for themselves, not really knowing much about the college process or getting exposed to the whole college going idea. The next thing is the resources within your high school. So different areas, no matter what, have different kind of resources available to them. And if you're not really around a big college going atmosphere and resources provided for you, it can seem like a little bit like a gray shaded area that you're not too sure about. One example I can give you for that is, so when I first got to NC State, I met a lot of friends from the Charlotte area. So Charlotte is the largest city in North Carolina, so huge area, a lot of fantastic schools, things like that. As we got to know each other more and more and talked about some of our classes here we was taking within my freshman year, we would also share about the classes we took in high school. So within our math class, we was going through some stuff as far as like calculus type work. And they was like, yeah, I remember doing this in high school. And I would tell them like, oh, really? Because I didn't. They was like, what? Like, you didn't take AP calculus or honors calculus or stuff like that? And I was more like, no, man, my high school only had honors pre-calc, and that's it. After that, you go to like advanced modeling and functions. And that was all for themselves. And for them, they was like mind blown, like, wait, your school doesn't offer that? And it was more like, how many AP classes your school has to offer? Like, what about IB coursework? And during that time, I was like, what the heck is IB? I don't even know what it is. It was more like AP, we only had one AP class. The rest was honors. And it's just the kind of reality of it, just different areas have different resources for students, whether it's test prep or taking challenging coursework to kind of prepare them for themselves. And it kind of saying things in our head, we was like, okay, that's something we need to fix, or there's something we know we can fix and help students with. The next two, it kind of goes together, is leaving home and kind of going into the unknown. So if you don't really know much about college, or it's really not taught about in your family or introduced about it, you don't really know too much about the process. You kind of learn like, oh, you go into college, you go to college to make money, to get a career you're looking for, but you don't really know how it's set up. You don't understand the normal gist of it, or why people go to college, or how it can really impact you, just because it's like a new area to you. So it's like going to a new road that's been closed forever and it's opened up, and you're like, wait, what is this? And it's kind of knowing that process of knowing, like, as a college student, you get more exposure to things. You get a lot of work on group projects. You learn the fact of, oh, you set your own college schedule. So you're not in class for a set period of time where it can be, hey, I get to school at 7:30, 8 o'clock, I'm done at 3 o'clock. It's more of like, hey, I set my classes, what I want to take. And you learn about more of what you want to get involved in. And so it's kind of, we notice that it's a big unknown for a lot of people that you don't know too much about, and it can all hit you at one time. I told a lot of people from back home, when I first went to NC State, coming from a small town to where we have no stoplights, no Walmarts, no nothing, to living in Raleigh, I felt like a little kid in the candy store all over again. It was like, what is all this stuff around me? And like, what is this going on? Like, so I was so excited. I wanted to move around to everything, but I was like, wait, what is all this? Like, what is all this? What is all this? And it is a lot to learn at one time that can get you. And so we kind of noticed, okay, it's an unknown for me as well. And that kind of little balance with leaving home and managing all of that. So for some of these ideas and things we kind of noticed, it's kind of where Rachel kind of led to start the actual creation of NEF. I'm gonna let her kind of talk about that a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, totally. And so I first also kind of want to set the scene for y'all and like what, things look like before NEF even came on the scene. So for nearly like 10 years or so, for about a decade, NC State has actually been intentionally recruiting Native American students like yourselves, and, really developing relationships with communities, and having partnerships throughout the state of North Carolina. So when I joined NC State, I was pretty fresh out of college myself, ready to change the world and really excited to get more students in college and to share my story. And that was back in 2012. And at that time, we were starting to recruit more students out of state as well. And there were a couple of times when, I was really pumped about it because I got to do what I loved and attend some other like college access or college prep camps, and these were like Native focused. So I attended a few camps that were held in Oklahoma and Arkansas, specifically really kind of like how we created NEF. And then a couple years after I'd been at NC State, the opportunity came to participate in actually the Native Education Forum at Colorado State University. And that was when a really beautiful partnership was formed, because there were, lots of models of college prep camps. I'm sure y'all have been to many college prep camps, or heard of some, or maybe your friends have heard of some, but there really wasn't anything like NEF like this that was Native focused and at state institutions. So I know that I had personally heard of some camps at like Ivy League schools and some other private schools, but nothing was really at somewhere like NC State. And so it really was the first of its kind. And, the thing that was really unique about NEF when we partnered with Colorado State, and now we're going to get into it, but we definitely made it our own, right? So the pillars that it was based on, though, were community, indigenous cultural traditions, and Native focused educational topics. So things that you may not normally experience, either where you currently are or even think about and necessarily experience when you go to college, unless you intentionally seek it out. Because we know that this is something really important to experience in college. And, for me, it was really important that we had this because, Justin and I talked about kind of our own personal journeys to this point. And, for me, even when I was a little girl, my family would ask, like, where are you going to go to college, Rachel? And so I grew up my entire life kind of answering that question and thinking about that. And to me, it was really normal. And I didn't realize that it wasn't quite a normal thing across the board until I got to high school and started to face a lot of different pressures. And there was a lot more stigma that maybe y'all have faced as well. I hope that the tide is changing a little bit, but there was kind of a stigma that, if you go to college, you're going to be different, right? Or if you go to college, you might not come back. Or, you might just be something completely different, right? And there was a little bit of fear in that. And my mom definitely had that, right? She wanted me to stay at home. But, you know, she was definitely like, no, you need to go to college, but was, you know, really scared about it. And for me, since I did go to predominantly Native high school and was in the tribal community, as I mentioned, I grew up in Pembroke, North Carolina. So I graduated from Purnell Sweat High School in Pembroke. I had the opportunity during that time to visit some couple of colleges where I was introduced to some Native students at those schools. And for me, y'all, that made all the difference, because I didn't even know that college wouldn't really have a lot of other Native folks, because all my classmates in high school were, you know, like me. It was more of like, you know, being a community, like, who's your people, right? Like, who are your other people? Where are you from? Instead of like, oh, I didn't know Native Americans even existed, right? So I didn't even know that was a thing. So I was so grateful, and it made all the difference to also already know Native students on college campuses before I even went. I see that chat, Kaylee. And so for me, it made all the difference and really helped me to, you know, gain some colleagues as I navigated the system. So we began to see the importance of the program because, as I mentioned, my mom didn't go to college, and it became even more important for us to do this work because I have a little brother who's much younger than me, actually. But even though my mom didn't go to college, he began asking questions that I never thought to ask. I remember the day that he actually attended NEF, one of our first years that we had it. And I remember he asked me, like, hey, sissy is what he calls me, right? He said, hey, sissy, so what exactly is the difference again between a bachelor's and master's degree? And I was like, whoa. Because when I was in college, I didn't even know that I was getting a bachelor's degree. I didn't even know the difference between those things and did not understand any of that. So it's, for me, been really personal. It's been my drive. It's really shown me the importance of having these ties and passing along, you know, what our knowledge can be and where we can get. And so we're really excited that, you know, personally, of course, I'm very excited that this program is still continuing, and now we're going into our 5th year. Even though it's virtual, I think it speaks so much to the resilience of this program and how much we believe in it and what it's come to be, that we can still continue this program and there's still an importance for it. And so I talked a little bit about that, and, you know, I talked about the pillars that the program was built on. And so it's been even more important for the program, you know, to have that. And we've seen that it's shown to be successful for our participants. So another thing that we have noticed, you know, throughout the program, throughout the years, is, y'all may notice this as well, our Native communities, whether or not you're connected to your Native community or not, maybe in your family, our communities are really based on, you know, community and based on reciprocity and giving back to each other, right? So if you have something, if you've gained, you should give back. So it's not just y'all as participants that, you know, really benefit from this program, but we also often include our current students as well. And so it's going to look a little different this year, but we are going to make sure, and I know Justin's made sure to include some of our current students later on this week to be able to share their perspective, because that's so important. Remember, if you don't remember anything else this week, remember that you don't get anywhere on your own. And that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. Because trust me, all the other people who have had generations of folks going to college, they know that. They know they're not getting anywhere on their own, right? So utilize those resources and build that community. And so we really want to make sure that you have that experience and that you're able to also, during this process, you know, learn a little bit more about college and how to get to college, especially at a university like NC State. You know, I don't know about y'all. Some of you may know folks that have gone to NC State, and now obviously you do, right? Like Justin's here, so no matter what, you know somebody. But, you know, this is really an opportunity for you to learn more about NC State, and generally, you know, Justin, don't hurt me for saying this, but to also maybe get to somewhere else, even if it's not NC State, because the ultimate goal is really for you to have the knowledge and the power to decide so that no one else is making those decisions for you, right? And throughout the time, you know, like I said, we really want you to get to know each other. We know it's difficult with the virtual method, but building this community, because no matter where y'all go, you're around the same age. You're going to be going to college, whether it's NC State, whether it's another school in the state, whether it's somewhere else. These are going to be your colleagues in your community. Some of the programs I attended as a high school student, I made friends that are still my friends now and doing really amazing things just across the country, even though many of us did not go to the same school for college. And so just want you to know that it seems small, but it's a really cool thing that being Native and being able to connect with other Natives, we have an advantage because we get to know people all across the place.
And no matter where you're from, this program is set to give you that college access standpoint and kind of give you the tools you may need for yourself. Of course, everything for us being in the university, a lot of it says NC State. So even like the planning for college guys, you got the presentation you're seeing now. And we would love, of course, for everyone to come to NC State. Really, the end goal is for you to go to college or find a good fit for yourself. So we never try to put too much pressure on anyone. We want to say this is what we have to offer, just to show them kind of what colleges in general have to offer. Like she said, no, it's not like a hurt thing for us. For us in general, from the office, from us doing this multiple times, interacting with so many students, we just excited when they find a good school for themselves. Even this past year, I had a guy, he's actually one of the pictures he's seeing right now. His top school was to go to Stanford. He really wanted to go. He was from North Carolina, but that was his dream school. And I remember he sent me an email back in November saying, hey, I got in, I got a big scholarship for it. Like, thank you so much. And like, it's not my school, you know, and he knew that, but like, we're more excited. Like, hey man, that's awesome to hear. Keep in contact. Best of luck to you. So really the key thing is going to the college you're looking for, find that perfect fit for yourself to know you're going to be successful to kind of help your community afterwards. Like she said, it don't stop at just you. In some general shape or form is that community aspect to kind of help others and kind of give back. So it is a really big part of us in general, kind of what we look to aim to do. As far as things you'll gain for this week, it's kind of laid out here. It's going to be a little bit different, of course, because it's a virtual format. But one of the things we want to see is kind of knowing about the college process and the college life and the college process from, and kind of even getting peer guidance. So some things we have set up for the rest of the week, I kind of gave you a quick kind of blurb about it. So tomorrow we'll do a more in-depth conversation about planning for college and preparing. So we're going to build on that first week session we did about 2 weeks ago. And also talk a little bit more about college terminology. So words you may hear such as early action, early decision. We're going to play a little game with it also, just to test a little bit of your skills. On Wednesday, we'll have another guest speaker come in and talk more about kind of finding your home away from home. So navigating that unknown and kind of your own home community. And also kind of touching into your cultural identity. So one thing I can say, even probably for me and Rachel and for others, we came from like a Native background, and that's one thing that's really cool. But you kind of learn more about your Native identity once you go away from that community and you're kind of on your own, and you kind of learn these new avenues. I like telling a lot of people, when you first go to college, you think you're kind of grown, but really that's when you're going to experience one of your biggest growth phases and kind of learn more about who you are as a person. So we'll have Ian come in. He'll talk a little bit more about finding your home, finding your community, and kind of really finding that identity within yourself, no matter what it is. There's a ton of possibilities for someone to kind of find what makes them happy in their own identity and find their own fit, no matter what it looks like. And we'll talk about that a little bit. On Thursday, we'll have Dr. Walt Wolfram. He's one of our professors here on NC State's campus. He's going to talk about a little bit about Native linguistics. So really kind of breaking down the way people talk and everything else. A lot of his projects he has worked with the Cherokee language as well as the Lumbee language. It's a great thing. He kind of goes through an interactive thing. He talks about language and kind of the power behind it as well, and kind of like your dialect. So the simple things you say that you may think is not that impactful, it really about kind of your culture, kind of who you are. And then lastly, on Friday, we'll kind of do more of that peer guidance. We have some of our students on campus joining this call. It'll be basically a roundtable call, so it won't be a set presentation. It won't be any kind of recordings. We're going to come in, everyone's going to join in. I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and I'm going to really let you all kind of lead the way. So I would say begin thinking of questions you may want to ask them. No matter what it is, they're there to kind of share their college experience a little bit about it. They can talk about what they're doing now in college, also their journey to college. They're a little bit younger, so maybe a little bit more impactful for you than my experience or Rachel's experience when we first started applying. But they're really just to answer your questions. And I promise you, it's better to hear from a current student themselves and take it from what sometimes people may tell you, what you may read online, because they can really share their very own experience with themselves. So even though it is in virtual format, we do want to still give you some of the same pieces. And then also I will want to say, if anyone, I know quite a few people are juniors on here, just keep in mind that we will hold this program next year. Hopefully on that point, knock on wood, we can bring students back to campus. And I would definitely encourage you to kind of look into the program as well, stay connected with us. We're going to take these same avenues and aspects of what we do focus on and just put it in a whole new meaning and kind of a hands-on experience for yourself. Also, from this picture, it's something that I personally love. So at NC State, me and a couple other guys, we basically started our own drum group on campus. It's a drum you see right here in the picture. We had no experience with drumming and singing, had no idea how to do it. It was just somebody had a dream about it one day and said, let's do it. And we said, let's go for it. And even one thing we do during the week, we do kind of a culture night. So we kind of go in, have people talk about different things. We do things as far as smudging sometimes, different performances. And we'll also talk about the drum. So during this time, we'll have all the guys come around, sit around the drum, no matter what kind of experience you got. And we'll kind of go through a song together just to see how experience for you, let you hit the drum a little bit. And we'll also have some of the other ladies on campus come in and with the ladies behind us, see how it feels just to sing. You don't have to sing at all, just be around it and kind of get their experience for themselves. And I can tell you for most people, when they talk about this and say how they felt later, it's kind of a great thing that kind of really hits you deep inside. That you can't explain it, but you just can feel it inside of you and kind of just touch peace with you. I kind of bring it full circle. And during the weeks, normally we'll do things as far as talking circles to address the concerns you kind of mentioned earlier, as far as applying to college and what you may be nervous about, just to kind of show you're not together and you're not alone with it. And you'll really notice within that first day or so how it goes to people really not knowing each other and trying to get a feel for each other. They may be nervous leaving home for the first time, to the last day of that week, how they're all close, they're really good friends with each other. They say how they don't want to leave, they want to do it again, and that's kind of a great impact we've had. They got to build off of this program, and why we're so excited for it. And even within it, we kind of look and try to keep track of our students to see what's their college process like, you know, what's been their ways through college. And I can probably say almost every student in some form, they have a plan after high school for themselves, whether it's coming to NC State or going somewhere else. And they love to keep in contact with us, let us know what's going on. And we personally love that for ourselves. Also, just to kind of see that what we're doing, we want to make sure it's definitely impactful and everything around there.
Before you move
as far,
on, I want to make one more comment back on the last thing about just culture identity in college. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about kind of participating in some of this. And one note I want to make too is that, you know, and I think Justin, from what I know of him, is kind of falls in this boat as well. But we, like many other students, we weren't really traditional growing up. So didn't necessarily participate in a lot of these cultural activities. You know, I'd always been to powwows, as I was, you know, my mom was very involved in powwows, but I never danced, I never sang, I never did any of that. But college was really the opportunity that, you know, and sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I was like, am I really Native? Because I don't participate in this, and I didn't feel like I was, you know, Native enough. But I think that's really the cool thing about college, and why, you know, a big part of why we have this in our program, in the program, is because, you know, this is a really great time for you to start to learn about what being Native means to you, regardless of what your experience has been up to this point. And everything about this is really learning and figuring out, you know, how your own identity and how your family story fits into, you know, what you bring to the table being at college. So I just wanted to make that point, because sometimes it can be a little bit intimidating, especially if this isn't something that, you know, you participate or hasn't been a big part of your life up until now. So sorry about that, Justin.
No, that's fun. That was perfect. That was great for it. And then lastly, before we kind of go to more of our kind of communication part and kind of learning more about you all, some things as far as we asked for you this week. We understand this virtual is a little bit different. Honestly, it's a new kind of avenue for both of us, even within this week and even our professional careers, kind of learning how that works. Just to keep an open mind and be respectful for each other's. Again, you can see everyone on this call. We can see people with names. We're going to allow you all to talk a little bit sometimes. So please be respectful for that. Be open-minded. Everyone is welcome in every shape or form, no matter what. And then be willing to ask questions and kind of share your thoughts. So, you know, we come with these ideas. I can tell Rachel all day, hey, this is what I want to talk about. These are our sessions. But really, if we're not answering the questions you want to know, it's not going to be that beneficial for you. I can talk for days and days about almost anything, especially college related. But if it ain't hitting the questions you want to know, it ain't going to be as impactful for you. So we really want to know what kind of questions you have so we can answer them questions for you. And also let you know your thoughts within it. Even though we did this program, 5 years, and technically this is our 6th version of it, I would say almost every time we've made changes for it. And the changes are based on other people's thoughts. You know, this program is geared toward the students, and everything we do is for students participating in it. And we can have this idea of this is going to work, and we'd rather hear from the students themselves and make sure it's working and being beneficial to you. So I know after every session, you normally get a little small survey afterwards. Feel free, let us know your thoughts. I promise you, we won't get in our feelings about it in any shape or form. It's automatically anonymous, so you don't know who puts it, but it lets us know what to build on before and kind of what to kind of build on, and also what may need to change and rework a little bit. So definitely don't forget that also.
And I think, participating in surveys like that, I think the way I like to think about those is that's you being a good community member, because that's you contributing to the community, because your voice is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to make sure that, this voice that was given to you, that you do use. So I just want to say that I always like to think of that, because sometimes you think like, well, what is it going to matter if I say this? And just know, like Justin said, just to reiterate, it makes a huge difference.
And for the people on this call, again, we're not about to close anyway, but every week, every day this week at 11, we're going to do it for everyone who attends each session and kind of checks in for it. We will be doing a raffle at the end of the week. So we'll go through a random raffle, pick about 2 or 3 different names. And you will get some kind of special NC State items for us. It may be a t-shirt, maybe a water bottle, maybe a poster, some more journals that we may have, but your name will go into a raffle to kind of receive some extra information, kind of some NC State swag that we can provide for you. At this point in time, I'm actually going to stop our recording just because